everyone. So we are going to have a look at human rights in our 18th lesson. ඉතින් අපේ අද lesson එකේ අපි බලන්නේ මානව අයිතිවාසිකම් ගැන. Right? So let's see what we have to do first. Read and match the correct pictures. Description එක අපි කියවලා අපි මොකද කරන්න ඕනේ? Pictures match කරන්න ඕනේ. Okay, so I'm not sure if everything is a clear idea, but let's try. Okay? When Christopher arrives to vote on election day, a soldier tells him that he can't vote. Christopher says that he is registered. The soldier tells him that he can't vote because he is a member of the opposition party. The soldier forces him to leave. Api balamu. Forcing to leave election day. Really, there's nothing much, but yeah, we could take something like this. And kind of pushing him out, yeah? Let's take C. Right? Let's take some easy ones. Church one, because I saw a church there. Every Sunday, the people in Sarah's town go to different churches, but Sarah cannot practice her religion. Police close and destroy her church and tell her not to go there. So that would be F. Okay, so they have destroyed hers. That is going to be F. All right. Done that. Yaribel pays a stranger to take her across the border to find work. When she arrives, she is forced to work as a prostitute. The owners of the brothel take the money and she cannot leave the brothel because the owners are violent. She becomes pregnant and has a baby. Her child is born into slavery too, and they both grow up in the brothel. Doesn't seem like a brothel, but I think it would be more like a house. E, kind of a brothel place. Brothel kyane ganika nivasyak, right? So let's take E and C. Okay. Rosa has a degree in engineering. She applies to 10 different jobs. Zati 10කට දානවා. Each time a man gets the job instead of her, none of the men have degrees. Rosa never gets a job. ගෑනු පිරිමින්ට සම අයිතිවාසිකම් නෑ. I think it should be I. Oops. I. Anything else? No. Right. Okay. Ricardo doesn't go to school because his parents can't pay the fee. School should be free in Ricardo's country, but the mayor makes every student pay $5 a month to go to class. I think it should be D because it looks more like him paying for something. Okay. Let's see. In Osman's country, there is a civil war. He had to escape the violence and he lives in a United Nations refugee camp until the war ends. When he returns to his town, he discovers that the military built a base where his house was. He has no money to build the house and the military will not help. Let's see. Seems more like no cards. Seems. Which one can we take? More money. No. In Ramon's country, it hasn't rained in 2 years. There's very little food. The government exports some food to make money. Ramon only eats 1 meal a day. So that, I think, exports money. That would be B. Right, that's straightforward. I think violence, civil war would be more like A. Right, I would just put A there. Right. Isabel wants to play with her friends, but her parents will not permit her every day. She has to clean, cook, do the homework, and study hard. So that is preventing women from learning, children from learning. That would be G, doing household work. Okay. Ricardo's parents are sad and angry that their son can't go to school. They protest in front of the mayor's house. The mayor arrests the protesters and put them in jail for protesting. Seems like Mega Kianabuna father says, no, you can't go to school, right? And he's upset about it, so I would just take H there. Okay. There it is. Okay. යම් තාක් දුරකට තේරුම එන එක right ඉතින් අපි පුළුවන් තරම මැච් කරේ පින්තූරෙට යම් කිසි value එකක් එන විදිහට සහ තේරුමක් එන විදිහට right value means එකේ meaning එකක් එන විදිහට ඊට පස්සේ අපි බලමු question එක identify what kind of human rights were violated ඉතින් මං කිව්වා තමන්ගේ කියන්නේ අයිතිය පාවිච්චි කරන එක ඡන්ද අයිතිය පාවිච්චි කිරීමේ බලය right තමන්ට ජොබ් එකක් කිරීමේ අයිතිය ගෑනු පිරිමි ભેදයකින් තොරව right so ඒ වගේ ටිකක් තියෙනවා let's have a look violation of voting rights ඡන්දය දැමීමේ අයිතිය violation of freedom to play ළමයි උනහම සෙල්ලම් කරන්න ඕනේ වැඩ නෙවෙයි කරන්න ඕනේ deny access to education අධ්‍යාපනයට අවසරයක් නැතුව ළමයි අධ්‍යාපනයෙන් ඈත් කරලා තියෙන එක human trafficking ඒ කියන්නේ ගෘහ සේවයට වඩා අතර මේකෙන් අදහස් කරන්නේ prostitution ගණිකා වෘත්තියේ යොදවන එක right violation of religious freedom තමන් කැමති ආගම අදහන්න නැති කිරීම right to adequate food හරියම ප්‍රමාණයකට කෑමට මිනිස්සුන්ට ඇත්තටම access එකක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒක රටේ ඉන්න පාලකයන්ගේ වගකීමක්, right? Unlawful seizure without compensation. නිකම්ම දෙයක් අපිට අයිති කරගන්න බෑ. ඒකට යම්කිසි මුදලක් වටිනාකමක් දෙන්න ඕනේ. Gender discrimination, right? හරියට කතා වෙනවා ලංකාවෙත් හරියට කතා වෙන එකක් තමයි gender equality, gender discrimination. ගැහැණු පිරිමීන්ට වෙනස්ව සලකන එක. Deny access to free education නිදහස් අධ්‍යාපනයට තියෙන ඒ කියන්නේ අයිතිය නැති කිරීම right so these are some of the rights which were violated නැති වෙච්ච ඒවා right okay so with that we move on into the next question practice question 2 girl 15 guilty Read the newspaper cutting and answer the following questions stating true or false. Right? So here we have a newspaper article. Eking true the false කියලා ලියන්න ඕනේ. මම එක කියවන්නම් clear නැත්තම් right? Girl 15 guilty in bus seat case. Right? Ella, a 15-year-old girl who refused to move to the rear of a city bus was found guilty in juvenile court here last Friday on charges of assault and battery, disorderly conduct and with violating a city ordinance. එකයි ගන්න editor. Friday on charges of assault and disorderly conduct with violating a city ordinance which makes it unlawful for any passenger to refuse or fail to take those seats assigned to the race which it belongs. The girl Claudette Colvin was declared a ward of the state and pieced on prohibition pending good behavior. Robert Clear, driver of the bus, told the court that the girl was seated near the front of his seat with a Negro woman when the group of white persons boarded the bus. Clear said he asked both the girl and the woman to move to the rear. He said the woman moved, but Miss Colvin remained in the seat. Clear said that he then called the police. ඉතින් ඉස්සර පාට ભેදයක් තිබුණා කළු සුදු ભેදයක්. ඉතින් මේ ඒ වගේ කේස් එකක් ඉස්සර පත්තරයකින් ගත්ත ආටිකල් එකක්, right? ඉතින් වෙච්ච දේ තමයි වයස අවුරුදු 15ක ළමෙක් වැරදි කියලා ඔප්පු වුණා. මොකද එයාගේ සීට් එකෙන් නැගිටි නෑ කියලා. එයා වාඩි වෙලා හිටපු සීට් එකේ සුදු මිනිස්සු කට්ටියක් නැග්ගහම ඩ්‍රයිවර් කියලා පිටිපස්සට යන්න කියලා. හැබැයි එතන නීග්‍රෝ වුමන් තව කළු ලේඩි කෙනෙකුයි මෙයයි දෙන්නම ඉඳලා තියෙනවා. නීග්‍රෝ වුමන් ගියාට මෙයා ගිහිල්ලා නැහැ. ගියේ නැති හින්දා මෙයාට කෝට් ජුවිනයිල් කෝට් එකෙන් ඕඩර් එකක් දුන්නා. එයා කරේ වැරද්දක් කියන එක තමයි එතනින් ඔප්පු වුණේ, right? So හරිද වැරදිද කියන එක නෙවෙයි අපි කතා කරන්නේ. We are looking at this problem here. She was tried as an adult. මෙන්න මෙතන කියනවා she was found guilty in juvenile court here last Friday on charges of assault, disorderly conduct with violating a city ordinance which makes it unlawful for any passenger to refuse, right? So what do you mean by a juvenile court? And that's what I want us to have a look at. Let's Google and see. Right. So juvenile court, right? A court of law responsible for the trial or legal supervision of the children under a specified age 18 in most countries, right? ඉතින් එයාව adult කෙනෙක් හැටියට නෙවෙයි charge කරේ ළමයෙක් හැටියට. ඒකයි ආව juvenile court එකේදී ඒ case එක තිබ්බේ. So that is false. She was a teenager at the time of her arrest. True, she was 15. That's a teenager. Montgomery is in the state of New Jersey. I don't know. Montgomery, Allah. We don't know if it's in New Jersey, but they don't really say. They say it's Allah, so I would just go false. She was the only one to not obey the request by the bus driver. True, because the other lady moved her seat. She asked a white man on a bus if she could sit on his seat. False. එහෙම එකක් ඇහුවේ නෑ. US law required black passengers to give their seats to white people. True. The bus driver immediately called the police. Immediately නෙවෙයි. එයාට එහාට වෙන්න කිව්වා. ඒ කරේ නැති වුණාම තමයි call කරේ. Claudette was sentenced to 6 months in prison. But they don't really tell. Unlawful passenger violating state. They don't really tell us if it is 6 months. අපි දන්නේ නැහැ. So that is going to be false. Right? Alright. So editor අර ටික ගන්න එපා. මේක ඉවර වෙන තැන ඉඳන් ගන්න. Right? Alright. So with that, we go and have a look at practice question 3, the Nobel Peace Prize. Nobel ත්‍යාගය ගැන. Read the text and answer the following questions. Tawakkol Karman, Ellen Johnson, Lima Gowi win Nobel Peace Prize. The Nobel Peace Prize for 2011 was awarded to 3 influential women from Africa and the Middle East. A decision intended to draw attention to the suppression of women's rights around the world and spur their fight for greater equality. The winners were Tawakkol, a leading figure in Yemen who inspired thousands of women to rise up in a region where women are considered second-class citizens. Liberian President Ellen Johnson, the first elected female president in post-colonial Africa, and peace activist Lima from the same country. This year's award arrives as women in Africa and Middle East find themselves at a crossroad, trying to break away from a history of restrictions fueled by culture and traditions. While women have become more visible in government and social activism, deep challenges remain in many areas, including education, employment, access to healthcare. Okay, so Nobel ත්‍යාගය 2011 වර්ෂයේ ඉතාමත්ම ඉන්ෆ්ලුවන්ෂල්. ඒ කියන්නේ යම්කිසි වෙනසක් සිදු කරපු කාන්තාවන් 3 දෙනෙකුට දෙන්න තීරණය කරනවා. ඉතින් මේ ඩිසිෂන් එකට එන්නේ ලෝකෙ පුරාම කාන්තා අයිතිවාසිකම් පිළිබඳව ලොකු ප්‍රශ්න සහ ප්‍රශ්න පැන නැගෙන කාලෙකදී. ඉතින් මේකේ අවුරුද්ද දිනපු තවකාල් කියන්නේ යෙමෙන් වල ඉන්න එක්කෙනෙක්. එයා ගැහැණු දසදහස් ගානක් ඉන්ස්පයර් කරා ඒගොල්ලොන්ගේ සෙකන්ඩ් ක්ලාස් සිටිසන් එකෙන් නැගිටින්න කියලා. ඒගොල්ලොත් අනිත් පිරිමින් වගේම වැදගත් කියන තැනට ගෑනුන්ව මොටිවේට් කරලා ගත්තා. ලිබියාවේ ප්‍රෙසිඩන්ට් එලන් ජොන්සන් පළමුවෙනි කාන්තාව ඇෆ්‍රිකාවල පෝස්ට් කොලෝනියල් ඇෆ්‍රිකාවල ඉලෙක්ට් වෙච්ච සහ පීස් ඇක්ටිවිස්ට් කෙනෙක් හිටියා ලීමා කියලා. එයත් ලිබියාවෙන්ම තමයි. ඉතින් මේ අවුරුද්දේ අප්‍රිකාවේ සහ මිඩල් ඊස්ට් වලින් මැද පෙරදිගෙන් මේ කාන්තාවන් එන්නේ ඇත්තටම හිස්ටරි එකක්. ඒ කියන්නේ යම්කිසි ඉතිහාසාත්මක ලකුණක් එකතු කරමින්. මොකද ඒව එහෙම වෙලා නැහැ. සහ කියන්නේ තමන් බිහි වෙන සංස්කෘතිය ඒ වගේ දේවල් වල කඩාගෙන බිඳගෙන ඇවිල්ලා තමයි මේ වගේ නොබෙල් ත්‍යාගයක් ගන්නෙ. ඉතින් ඒකෙන් තේරුම් අරන් තියනවා මේ ගොඩක් තැන්වල මෙච්චර මේ ගෑනු නැගී සිටියත් තාමත් අධ්‍යාපනය රස්සාවල් හොයාගන්න එක සෞඛ්‍ය පහසුකම් වලට යන එක තාමත් බාධාවක් ගෑනුන්ට නැත්තම් මේ සමාජවල් වල. Tawakol called the award a victory of our revolution, for our methods, for our struggle, for all Yemeni youth and for all youth in the Arab world. This will give the people more strength. Peace is the only way to make a new Yemen, she said. Her activism is all the more unusual because it is happening in the patriarchal means a society ka minissu pirimingen dominate vela tiyenawana. Deeply conservative Yemen, where women face restrictions and are often treated violently. Ellen Johnson has been involved in libertarian politics for more than 30 years. As Liberia's president, she worked fervently to promote the development in her country and the rights of women and girls. We are now going into our 9th year of peace and every Liberian has contributed to it, she says. We particularly give this credit to Liberian women who have constantly led the struggle for peace, even under conditions of neglect. Lima, the other Liberian, organized Muslim and Christian women who, wearing white t-shirts, demonstrated together in large numbers. They were instrumental in bringing an end to Liberia's civil war in 2003. Govi now heads the Women Peace and Security Network Africa. I'm shocked. I'm numb. I'm still really feeling like it's all a dream to me. There is no way we can negotiate peace and security if we leave out the women of the world. So there is naturally still a long way to go. Right? ඉතින් මේකෙන් කියවෙන්නේ ගෑනු කොච්චර peace සහ human rights වලට fight කරාද කියන එක. ඉතින් ඒගොල්ලෝගේ ජාතියේ women rights strength කරන්න වැඩ කරා, politics වල වැඩ කරලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් එයා කියනවා රටේ අපි මේ 9 වෙනි අවුරුද්ද යන සාමය කියන එක ප්‍රොමෝට් කරලා කොච්චර අමාරුණත් සාමයෙන් තමයි ඒගොල්ලෝ හැමදේම achieve කරගත්තේ කියලා. Right? So, match the names of the Nobel Peace Prize winners with the corresponding statements. 3 do not apply. Right? ඉතින් මෙතන 10න් 7යි යන්නේ ABC වලට 3ක් යන්නේ නැහැ, ගැලපෙන්නේ නැහැ. Right. So, Tawakol, let's see. Things that despite difficulty, difficult conditions women have endured, no. Considered peace, yes. She considers peace, so I think that should be 2. She was one promoting peace, right? And she also believes that the prize will encourage the people's commitment. Okay. Then Lima thinks equality for all women. So that is number 4. එයා ප්‍රමෝට් කරන්නේ ඒක. ඊට අමතරව manage to unite women with all different religious beliefs. ඒක කියනවා නේද? ලීමා මේ ඉන්නේ organize Muslim and Christians. So that would be 7. Right? Now let's see what Ellen has to give. So she thinks that despite the difficult conditions women have endured, they will never give up fighting for peace. So that's 1. Fights for religious kawurut nam fight karanne, so 3 is not definitely there. Is the head of the state in a country? Yes, eya thamai president. So 5, that is true. Confesses that her achievements have not transferred. Ne, ya kiyana transfer kara kiyala. So 6 naha. Has taken an active part in politics for some decades now. Yes, that is definitely true. 8. Enable women to be a part of decision making process. Eka nang eki katha kerile naha. So I don't really know about that, so I wouldn't take it. We don't know, right? So 2, 10, 1, 5, 8, 4, 7. හොඳට තේරුම් ගන්න ඕනේ මොකක්ද එකකින් කියන්නේ කියලා. එතකොට තමයි මැච් කරන්න ලේසි වෙන්නේ. දැන් මතක තියාගන්න IELTS වලට මේක හරිම වැදගත්. Okay? Because this is one of the skills that they will be looking at, matching sentence headings, matching these people with what they say. Quite a prominent task for IELTS, even if you're doing academic, even if you're doing general, right? Okay, all right. So question number 2, complete the following sentences using information from the text. Okay, according to Ellen, this period of non-violence in a country is due to the Liberian women's what? Struggle. Okay, ඒගොල්ලෝ struggle කරපු එක තමයි ඒගොල්ලොන්ගේ දිනුමට මුල. Gobi thinks that negotiations for peace and security unless women are included. So let's see, Gobi. They were instrumental beginning. We now heads the women peace security. I'm shocked. I'm still feel there is no way we can negotiate. Negotiate. So she thinks that negotiations for security and peace, if we leave out women of the world, Gobi thinks that negotiations for peace and security will not be possible or will not be fruitful, useful, right? Will not be useful unless women are included, right? You can say possible, useful, unless women are included, right? Next one, identify what the words underlined refer to, okay? A decision, same country, discredit. මොනවද මේ වචනවල වලින් තේරෙන්නේ නිකන් තියනකොට නෙවෙයි ටෙක්ස්ට් එකේ තියනකොට, right? So please have a look at it and let me know, but do it on your own first and then I will put up the answers. All right, so if you have finished, let's have a look at the answers, right? Make an lazy, the same country is obviously Liberia. So a decision, discredit. Let's have a look at it. See if you've got the same answers. So a decision means awarding the Nobel Prize to 3 women. They can be from Africa and Middle East. Discredit, that is going into the 9th year of peace. Right? Okay. So there we are. You have got the answers for that question as well. Now, find equivalence in the text for the words or expressions below. Encourage, or we call it stimulate. Rebel, revolt. Escape, increased or made stronger. Ruled or uncontrolled by men. Passionately. Very important, or we say crucial. Exclude. Right? Okay. So, can you have a look at the words and then write it down on your own, and after that, I will put it on the board. Right? Okay, so if you have finished, මන් දාන්නම් උත්තර ටික බලන්න ඕගොල්ලෝ මේ වචනද ලියාගෙන තියෙන්නේ කියලා. So the first one, encourage, is spur. Rebel is to rise up, නැගිටිනවා. Escape, break away. Increased, made stronger, fueled up කියලා වචනයක් තිබ්බා. Or just fueled, no, it was more fueled. Ruled or controlled by men, patricial. Right. Next one, passionately, fervently. Very important, instrumental. Exclude is to leave out. Right. Okay, there we are. Right. So we have found all the necessary words. Right. All right. Briefly explain why Lima Gobi's feelings are when she says, I'm shocked, I'm numb, I'm still really feeling like it's all a dream. It means that she can't really believe it. She can't believe it. Okay? Right. Practice question 4, gender discrimination, right? So gender discrimination is where you would be not treated equal, right? People would treat you differently based on your gender. ඉතින් gender discrimination කියලා කියන්නේ ගැහැණු පිරිමි භාවයේ හින්දා වෙනස් සලකන එක, right? We need more women to overcome the sexist tech industry. Right? සාමාන්‍ය technology, IT industry එක නැත්තම් technology වල ගොඩාක් වැඩ කරන්නේ පිරිමි අය. So she says, අපිට තව ගෑනු ඕනේ මේ tech industry එක තව ටිකක් වැඩි දියුණු කරන්න. Right? Rewrite the rules on women in tech. Sexist attitudes are pervasive. It's up to risk-taking women to change the tech game. Okay? ඉතින් tech industry එක හරිම male dominant industry එකක්. ඉතින් sexist attitudes ඇවිල්ලා ගොඩක් ඇවිල්ලා prevailing. ඒ කියන්නේ හැමතිස්සෙම පිරිමි අය සාමාන්‍යයෙන් dominate කරන එකක් වෙලා තමයි තියෙන්නේ ඒ industry එක. ඒ හින්දා ගෑනු risk taking ගෑනු try කරන්න ඕනේ මේ tech industry එක වෙනස් කරන්න. From time to time, I'm reminded that for every 2 steps forward, we take 1 step back. ඉතින් සරින් සැරේට යා කියනවා යාට මතක් කරගන්නවලු අඩි 2ක් ඉස්සරහට ගියොත් එකක් පස්සට අනිවාර්යෙන්ම එනවා කියන එක. The latest reminder came last week when reading the New York Times front page story, As Inequality Roils Tech World, a group wants more, say men. Right? This story and some of the men quoted in it reminds me of the hell I went through to become a successful woman in the technology industry. That a growing contingent of men in Silicon Valley think women in tech movement have gone too far makes me believe we have only gone backward. ඉතින් මේ යාට හිතෙන විදිය මේ ආටිකල් එක ලියන කෙනා මොකද එයත් ඇවිල්ලා ටෙක් ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රි එකේ වැඩ කරන සක්සස්ෆුල් කෙනෙක්. ඉතින් ඒ වගේ කාන්තාවක් කියන යට මතක් වෙනවලු කොච්චර අමාරුවෙන්ද එයත් එතනට ආවේ කියන එක. This is 2017. The same sexist attitudes were being thrown around more than 30 years ago when I fought to get my start in tech in New York City. ඉතින් අද 2017යි. හැබැයි මීට අවුරුදු 30කට කලින් උත් මම පටන් ගන්න කාලේ මෙච්චර විදිහට මමත් ඒ විදිහටම රණ්ඩු වෙලා තමයි නිව්යෝක් සිටි එකේදී පටන් ගත්තේ මේ වෘත්තිය. But to read these insults today was nevertheless jarring. James Demo, the same Google engineer who was recently fired for suggesting women held fewer tech positions than men because of biological inferiority, told the Times that the idea that diversity improves workplace output, it's not scientifically decided that that's true. දෙයා කියනවා මෙහෙම කෙනෙක් එකපාරක් ෆයර් කරලා තිබුණා. මොකද එයා කිව්වා මිනිස්සු ටික දෙනයි ගෑනු ටික දෙනයි ඉන්නේ පිරිමීන්ට වඩා. මොකද ඒගොල්ලෝගේ තියෙන බයොලොජිකල් නැත්නම් අපි කිව්වොත් අපේ පිහිටීම නැත්නම් ගෑනු හැටියට අපි ඉපදෙන විදියේ තියෙන වෙනස්කම් හින්දා තමයි එහෙම රස්සාවක් හම්බෙන්නේ නැත්තේ. ඒ හින්දා යා කියනවා අනිත් එක සයන්ටිෆිකලි විද්‍යාත්මකව එහෙම තහවුරු කරලා නැහැ. මිනිස්සු එක එක જાතියයි ගන්නවා කියන එක workplace එකට හොඳයි කියලා. මොකද අපි කියනවා diversity improves the workplace. ගැහැණු පිරිමි දෙගොල්ලොම ඉන්න එක improve කරනවා කියලා. but මේකෙදී යා කියනවා ඒක එහෙම විද්‍යාත්මකව තහවුරු වෙලා නැහැ කියලා. Actually, it is. In a 2016 analysis of 500 US companies, the National Center for Women and Information Technology found that organizations with more diverse teams in terms of race and gender had higher sales revenue, more customers, greater market share, greater productivity than their less diverse counterparts. So ඇත්තටම 2016 දී ඔප්පු වෙලා තියෙනවා මේක ඩයිවර්ස් වුණාම ඇත්තටම හොඳයි කියලා. sales වැඩි වෙනවා, customers ලා වැඩි වෙනවා, market share එක වැඩි වෙනවා, productivity වැඩි වෙනවා කියලා තිබ්බා. What's more, there aren't that many women in technology to begin with, a point on which the New York Times ended their story. According to Girls Who Code, only 24% of computer scientists are women, down 13 percentage points since 1995. The organization warns that if the gender gap is not addressed, there will only be 2 female computer scientists for every 9 male computer scientists in 10 years. The numbers are even bleaker at the top of the sector's food chain. Only 5% leadership positions are held by women. ඉතින් හරිම ප්‍රශ්නයක් මේ ටෙක් ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රි එකේ කම්පියුටර් සයන්ටිස්ට්ලා සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අඩුයි. මේ ගැප් එක වැහුවේ නැත්නම් ඉස්සරහට යන්න පිරිමි සයන්ටිස්ට්ලා 9 දෙනෙකුට ගෑනු සයන්ටිස්ට්ලා දෙන්නයි ඉන්නේ. තව අවුරුදු 10ක් යනකොට. ඒක ඊටත් වඩා ප්‍රශ්නාර්ථයක් එන්නේ උඩට යනකොට මැනේජ්මන්ට් එකට යනකොට 5% ඉන්නේ ගෑනුන්ගේ ප්‍රතිශතය. I'm incredibly humbled and proud to call myself part of the 5%. The men that feel victimized in this New York Times story are not that different from the men I battled in the 1980s and the 1990s, when women in technology were a laughing matter. After being mistreated, offended, and underestimated long enough in an industry rife with systematic sexism, I realized this was the status quo. I understood I had to create my own rules to be successful in this industry. So I decided quite literally I wasn't going to work for the man anymore. I decided to open my own firm. ඉතින් එයා ඇවිල්ලා අර 105ට අයිති වෙන top management level එකේ ඉන්න කෙනෙක්. මොකද 1980 ගණන් වල 1990 ගණන් වල මේ විදිහටම එයාටත් ප්‍රශ්න වලට මුහුණ දෙන්න උනා. ඉතින් පිරිමි ගොඩක් වැඩ කරන ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රි එකක highly dominated by men, right? එයාට හරි ප්‍රොබ්ලම් එකක් වුණා. මොකද එයාගේ වැඩ underestimate කරා, එයාට ඉස්සරහට යන්න ඉඩ දුන්නේ නැහැ. ඉතින් ඒත් එක්ක එයා තීරණය කරා හැමදාම මෙහෙම වැඩ කරන්නේ නැතුව අනුංගාව එයාගේම කම්පැනි එකක් පටන් ගත්තා. I knew I could build a technology services firm with more integrity, ingenuity and commitment to client services than any I had come across. That's exactly what I did in 1984 with my first company, Turnkey Solutions. I did so well, I was able to sell it 6 years later to start the technology consulting company I operate today, Sharp Decisions. ඉතින් ඉස්සෙල්ලාම එයා කරේ client services provide කරන්න පුළුවන් හොඳ company එකක් build කරා. ඒක තමයි යා කරේ 1984 Turnkey Solutions කියලා. ඒක කොච්චර හොඳට කරාද කියනවා නම් අවුරුදු 6ක් ඇතුළත ඒක හොඳට develop කරලා ඒක විකුණලා අද technology consulting company එකක් කරනවා යා Sharp Decisions කියලා. But things were still an uphill battle. As a new CEO with Turnkey and Sharp, I wore many hats. Not only was I the CEO, but the Chief Financial Officer, Vice President, Accountant, Executive, Human Resources Manager, and Receptionist. It was never easy, especially when I had to pretend to be another person. That wasn't just once either. I remember a client called once expecting to hear from a man, so I pretended to be the CEO's receptionist. In a way, I was. Another time I hired an actor to play the role of my CEO during a big client pitch in tennis. Again, I went as the assistant. This client, by the way, is a multi-billionaire dollar logistics company. ඉතින් මොකද උනේ යාට මේක ගමන ලේසි උනේ නැහැ. අලුතෙන් පත්වෙච්ච CEO කෙනෙක් හැටියට එයා CEO රෝල් එක විතරක් නෙවෙයි. Financial officer, සමහරක් වෙලාවට CEO ගේ secretary, human resources manager, එක accounts handle කරන manager එහෙම හැටියට එයාට රඟපාන්නත් උනා. ඇත්තට මේ දේවල් කරන්නත් උනා. මොකද එකපාරක් මිනිස්සෙක් ඇවිල්ලා client කෙනෙක් එයාට දැනගන්න ඕන යම් කිසි solution එකක් හැබැයි පිරිමි කෙනෙක්ගේ. ඉතින් එයාට රඟපාන්න උනා CEO ගේ secretary කියලා. ඊළඟ පාර යා ඇක්ටර් කෙනෙක් හයර් කරලා ගෙනිච්චා. නළුවෙක්ව ඇත්තටම හයර් කරලා සල්ලි දීලා ගෙනිච්ච CEO හැටියට රඟපාන්න. එයා CEO ගේ assistant හැටියට රඟපෑවා. ඉතින් එහෙම කළා තමයි ආයේ companies develop කරේ. I took big risks to be seen for what I am, a business person in the tech world, and it's that type of risk taking that should continue. Women should continue persisting, speaking up for what they believe in and taking risks to show their skills and value. They should, whenever possible, look to rewrite the rules because the road to 6% is paved with those women. ඉතින් ඇත්තටම යා කියනවා බිස්නස් කරනවා නම් බිස්නස් ලෝකෙක ඇහණියෙක් හැටියට වැඩ කරනවා නම් එහෙම රෝල්ස් ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේ සහ challenges ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේ යම් කිසි වෙනසක් ඇති කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේ. එහෙම වුණොත් විතරයි අර 5% නැත 6% කියන කොටාශයට අයිති වෙන්න පුළුවන් යම් කිසි වෙනසක් කරොත්. Right? Right. So this is from the usnews.com, being extracted from that. Okay. Choose the correct answer A, B, C or D. Which you think fits best according to the text. ඉතින් A ද B ද C ද D ද කියන එක හරියට තෝරගන්න ඕනේ මේ දීලා තියෙන questions උයි answers උයි කියවලා. Having a success in the technology industry was a piece of cake, really arduous, not a very difficult task, something she was prepared. බලලා උත්තරේ ලියන්න ඉස්සෙල්ලා then I will discuss it. What does jarring mean in line 13? Ordinary, typical, unsurprising, astonishing. You can use a dictionary if you're not sure, right? A 2016 study, James Danmore's opinion about diversity at the workplace confirms, reinforces, contradicts, ratifies. ඉතින් මේ වචනවල උත්තර කියන්නේ තේරුම දන්නේ නැත්නම් හොඳම විදිය තමයි ඩික්ෂනරි එක පාවිච්චි කරන එක rather than me just telling you මේකේ තේරුම මොකක්ද කියන එක. Because දැන් intermediate level එකේ අපි සෑහෙන reading lessons ටිකක් කරලා තියෙන්නේ. So by now you should be confident enough to do it on your own, right? Girls who code 4C in 10 years' time. Bigger gender gap, a narrow gender gap, an improvement in the gender gap, a stunning gender gap. Due to her male partner's behavior, Karen decided to create sharp decisions, refused to accept men in her new business, rejected this systemic sexism at her workplace, and decided to set up her own business. So which one is it? As a CEO at sharp decisions, Karen had to perform very different tasks. Pretend to be the vice president, play the role of an actor, take off many hats. Right, so if you have finished, let's have a look at it, okay? Having success wasn't a piece of cake. Was a very difficult task. So, arduous is a very difficult task, okay? So you would go with B. Even if you didn't understand the meaning, okay? Jarring means not ordinary, not typical, it's definitely not unsurprising, but astonishing, okay? A study confirms James Darmo's opinion about diversity at the workplace. Okay? Girls who code 4C in 10 years. A bigger gender gap. Yeah, you will definitely see a bigger gender gap. Due to her male partner's behavior, she decided to set up her own business. As a CEO, Karen had to perform different types of tasks. So A. There you are. Okay, A uttara tika select karla ඇති කියලා මං හිතනවා. Next one, what do these expressions mean? For every 2 steps forward, we take 1 step back. ඒ කියන්නේ පොඩ්ඩක් successful වෙනවා වගේ කියලා දැනෙනකොට මොකක් හරි තියෙනවා අපිව ආපස්සට අදිනවා. Okay? Laughing matter විහිළුවට පත් වෙන. Okay? So everyone thinks that it's a big joke, right? So ඕගොල්ලොන්ට ඒ expression එකේ meaning එක තනියම ලියන්න පුළුවන්, right? What do the underlined words refer to? It, we, my, that. ඉතින් passage එකට ගිහිල්ලා බලන්න, they would tell you. Here it. What does it mean? What does we? Okay. My. I think the other one was that, no? Yeah, that. That's true. What's true? Okay? So I want you to read through it carefully, do it on your own first, and then I will put up the answers, right? So තනියම කරන්න දැන් පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේ ඇත්තටම, right? Begin එකේ ඉඳන් කරගෙන ආවනම් you should be confident by now to do it on your own, okay? Okay, so if you have finished, let's have a look at the answers. Here you are. It means the story, katandara. We means the people නැත්නම් readers. My කියන්නේ Karange. That කියන්නේ diversity improves workplace output කියන එක. Right? Okay, so with that we move on into practice question 5. As a Muslim, I strongly support the right to ban the veil. Veil කියන්නේ මූණ වහන එක. Right? At last, the European Court of Justice has made a stand for European values. So, Quanta Ahmed wrote this article on the 18th of March 2017, right? I was raised as an observant Muslim in a British family. Women, I was taught, determine their own conduct, including their veiling. We'd cover our hair only if we freely chose to do so. That's why I'm baffled by the notion that all Muslims should cover their hair or face. My entire family are puzzled by it too, as are millions like us. Not until recent years has the idea taken root that Muslim women are obliged by their faith to wear a veil. It's a sign, I think, not of assertive Islam, but of what happens when Islamists are tolerated by a Western culture that's absurdly anxious to avoid the offense. This strange, unwitting collaboration between liberals and extremists has been going on for years, but at last there are signs that it is ending. In response to cases brought by two veiled Muslim women from Belgium and France, the European Court of Justice has ruled that employers have the right to stop employees wearing visible religious symbols, including headscarves worn in the name of Islam. This ruling includes not only the burqa and the niqab, already entirely banned from the public space by a number of European countries, but also the face-revealing hijab. The ruling goes two ways. If the company does tolerate religious symbols, then no employee can be asked to take them off. In its ruling, the ECJ has made a secularist stand against Islamists who seek to dominate the public space. A secular public space allows me to practice my faith as it allows others to observe theirs. As the Quran says, "To you, your religion, and to me, mine." Give an employee the right to restrict the use of headscarves in Britain or elsewhere. It is good for every believer. I've seen what happens when the public space is infringed upon by the religious. My medical career took me to Saudi Arabia aged 31, where I was mandated by the law to wear the hijab, covering all of my hair and neck, and with its the abaya, a cloak covering my entire body from neck to ankles. For those 2 years, I became intimately acquainted with the cumbersome nature of forced veiling and its impracticality. Even seeing it imposed upon my unconscious female patients where the veil is mandatory. A kind of oppression is implemented, and an oppression that has absolutely no basis in Islam. Right? ටිකක් දිගයි passage එක මොකද එතනට යනකම් කැඩුවොත් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට තේරෙන්නේ නැති හින්දා. So let me run through it, right? And also to explain to you, I should understand the gist of it, right? ඉතින් මේක ඇවිල්ලා මුස්ලිම්ස් ගැන කතා කරන්නේ. එයා කියනවා නැත්තම් මේ ආටිකල් එකේ කියවෙන්නේ that Muslim women should have the right to remove the veil. හරි? veil එක නැත්තම් hijab is what they cover, niqab is when they cover their face, right? And veil is මෙතනින් වහලා උඩින් තව එකක් දැම්මම veil. Abaya is that black kind of dress that they wear, right? ඉතින් ඇත්තටම එයා කියනවා veil එක දාන එකවත් මුස්ලිම්ස්ට force කරලා යම් කිසි දෙයක් අඳින්න කියන එක religion එකේ නැහැ. සහ ඒක තහනම් කර යුතුයි කියන එක. ඒක එන්න ඕනේ තමන්ට ඒක කරන්න ඕනේ නම් තමන්ට කරන්න අයිතියක් තියෙනවා. හැබැයි ඒක forcefully Muslim women cover කරන්න ඕනේ veil එක දාන්න ඕනේ කියන එක ආගමේ නැහැ කියලා තමයි යා කියන්නේ. ඉතින් ගොඩක් වෙලාවට liberal Muslimsලා ඉන්නවා, නිදහසේ ඉන්නවා, සමහරක් වෙලාවට extremistලා ඉන්නවා, right? අන්තවාදීයෝ ඉන්න තේ දෙගොල්ලෝ අතරේ හැමතිස්සෙම මේ ගැන ඝට්ටනයක් තියෙනවා. Before I move ahead with this topic, right, please let me remind you that this is only for language purposes, right? නැතුව මට Islam or Christianity or Buddhism or Hinduism, that is not my problem to judge, right? ඒ හින්දා මේ lesson එක කරන්නේ reading එකට අදාළ වෙන්න මිසක් ඒ ගැන තමන්ට තියෙන personal opinions අදහස් දක්වන්න නෙවෙයි මම lesson එක කරන්නේ. Okay, so please bear that in mind. This lesson is solely extracted from an original reading, not something that I made up for that reason also, right? So I'm only teaching that so that I could put up some questions about human rights and you are able to answer it. So please do not get offended if you are from either ethnic group, right? And in the Europe, they came up with some rules and restrictions, right? And that it said that in Belgium and France, right, it was ruled that employers have the right to stop employees. Employees ට අයිතියක් තියෙනවා තමන් වැඩ කරන තැන එහෙම අඳින්න එපා කියන්නේ. එතකොට cover කරන්න බෑ. ඉස්ලාම් කියලා නිකාබ් අඳින්න බෑ. වේල් එකක් දාන්න බෑ. නිකාබ් means to close, right? ඉතින් එහෙම කරන්න බෑ. මොකද එකක් තමයි security reasons වලට. අනිත් එක තමයි ඒක publicly not accepted කියන තැනට එනවා. ගොඩක් යුරෝපේ තියෙන රටවල් ඇත්තට මේක බෑන් කරලා තියෙනවා, right? So එක්කෝ ඒගොල්ලන්ට ඒක ගලවන්න කියන්න පුළුවන්. එහෙමත් නැත්නම් ඒගොල්ලෝ එකට එකඟ වෙන්නේ නැත්නම් තම තමන්ට රිලිජන් එක ප්‍රැක්ටිස් කරන්න ඉඩ දෙන්න පුළුවන්, right? There's nothing from the early Islamic period about the khima or veil should cover whether face, body or hair. The Quran in Surah 24:31 reminds Muslim women simply of the need to draw over their bosoms. One of the Prophet Muhammad's wives in commanded to speak from behind the hijab as a mark of high distinction. But even though Aisha, one of the most eminent of the Prophet Muhammad's wives, had a great scholar of Islam, provided many details about the khimas, no record exists as to exactly how they were worn. I think khima or it's a veil කියන එක හරියටම කොහොමද අඳින්න ඕනේ කියන එක කියලා නැහැ. දැන් එක තැනකදී Prophet Muhammadගේ wife කෙනෙක් hijab නැත්නම් veil එකක් පිටිපස්සේ ඉඳගෙන කතා කරන්නේ මොකද යාට ඒක ලොකු ගරුත්වයක් දීලා කතා කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා කියනවා, right? හැබැයි අහීෂා තව Prophet Muhammadගේ wife කෙනෙක් හිටියා. එයා සහ ඉස්ලාම් වල හොඳටම ඉගෙන ගත්ත කෙනෙක් වෙලත් හරියට details දීලා නැහැ කොහොමද මේක අඳින්න ඕනේ කියන එක. Rigid interpretations of the veil are recent inventions. දැන් තමයි මේක මේ අලුතෙන් තමයි මෙහෙම අඳින්න කියලා කියන. නැත්නම් අතීතයේ ඇත්තට මෙහෙම කියවෙලා නැහැ. They are derived not from the Quran or early Islamic tradition but from the misogyny which claims to false basis in the divine. ඉතින් ඇත්තටම පුරාණයේ තියෙන පොතකින්වත් කුරාණයෙන්වත් ඉස්ලාම් ආගමෙන්වත් නෙවෙයි ගන්නෙ. මේ අලුතෙන් එන මිනිස්සුන්ගේ මතෙන් තමයි ගන්නෙ. So when the ECJ supports employers who ban the hijab, it is categorically not impinging on anyone's religious freedom. The veil has more to do with a set of quite new cultural mores. The Islamists wish to say we Muslims are different from the West. Increasingly, we don't like you or act like you. For Muslim families who have lived in Europe for generations, this is a strange and ugly trend. The men and women agitating for the right to wear headscarves in Europe would do well to remember our own history in the Muslim world. In the 1920s, with the rise of the secular states in Egypt and Iran, Muslim women began to organize in pursuit of their rights in 1922. These activists, led by Huda Shawawi, founded the Egyptian Feminist Union and discarded their veils. Within a decade, countless women followed suit and slowly they forced their way into the European academy. Eventually, Iran and Turkey forced women to de-veil as official policy. ඉතින් ඔය මතේ තියෙනවා. හැබැයි ඇත්තටම උනේ ටික කාලයක් යනකොට ඊජිප්තුව සහ ඉරානයේ ගෑනු වේල් එක බෑන් කරන්න කියන එකට ෆයිට් කරා 1922 දී. ඒත් එක්කම ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ නිදහස ලැබුණා. ඉතින් ගොඩක් වෙලාවට ඊජිප්තුවේ කට්ටිය දැකලා ඇති veils අඳින්නේ නැහැ. They do cover their hair, right? But Iran, Turkey, Egypt, Turkey කොටසක් ඉස්ලාම් කොටසක් ආගමේ, right? So ඒගොල්ලෝ de-veil official policy එකක් ගත්තේ veil එකක් දාන්න බෑ නීති අනුකූලව, right? So ඒක තහනම් ඒ රටේ veil එකක් දාන්න එක මෙහෙම මුණ වහන එක සම්පූර්ණයි, right? But the tide turned with the growth of the fundamentalist Islam and in the 1979 Iranian Revolution. The rebellions spread quickly from Shia to Sunni world as Saudi Arabia and Pakistan started to impose Islamization programs. A prominent Shia fundamentalist spokesman Iranian Ayatollah said the desire to be unveiled was an epidemic and the disease of our era. The real epidemic, I'd argue, was sort of the totalitarian Islamism that wanted not to run the government but to police what women chose to wear. So, I පොඩ්ඩක් ඉරානියන් විප්ලවයක් ආවහම මේක ප්‍රශ්නයක් ආව සුන්නි ෂියා කියන ආගම් දෙක අතර, right? ඉතින් ඒගොල්ල සමහරක් වෙලාවට එලකුව නැහැ ගෑනු වේල් එක දාන්න ඕනේ කියන එක. හැබැයි යා කියනවා මම හිතනවා මේක නිකන් පොලිසිය ඇවිල්ලා අපිට අඳින්න ඕන එක කියනවා වගේ දෙයක් කියලා. Okay, so moving on. Only now does the West seem to have worked out what has been going on. Rules about dress can and indeed must be imposed when any nation's social cohesion is threatened. Europe is increasingly reaping the harvest of multicultural policies that have served to divide rather than unite. Not just with the growth of Islamism, either by endangering hostility to immigration and refugees, often towards my fellow Muslims. The Islamists thrive on this, the idea of Muslims being society within a society. If they invent religious grounds to persuade them to dress differently, so much the better. It suits their sectarian agenda. At long last, the European Court of Justice has moved to restore bedrock of European identity, secular liberal democracy where the public space is shared by all and dominated by no one. It's just a shame it could have done so sooner before so much damage was done. The European ගොඩාක් නිදහස දුන්නා මිනිස්සුන්ට. කැමති දෙයක් අඳින්න පුළුවන්, කැමති විදිහට තමන්ට ජීවත් වෙන්න පුළුවන්, කැමති ආගමක් තමන්ට අදහන්න පුළුවන්. ඒකෙන් උනේ ඒගොල්ලෝ යුනිටි ඇති කරාට වඩා ගොඩක් වෙලාවට එයා කියන්නේ මිනිස්සු වෙන් කරා. මොකද සමාජය තුළ තව සමාජයක් ඇති වුණා. මුස්ලිම් අය ඒගොල්ලන්ට ඕන විදිහට ඕන දේ ඇඳගෙන ඕන විදිහට කරන්න පටන් ගත්තාම ඒක ඇත්තටම ප්‍රශ්නයක් වුණා. ඉතින් එයා කියනවා අන්තිමට යුරෝපයේ rules ගේනකොට ගොඩක් පහුවෙලා වැඩි ඔයිට කලින් ඒ rules ගෙනාව නම් සමාජෙ මෙච්චර ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ කියන එක තමයි යාගේ මතය. Right? Say who or what the following sentences refer to. Them, its, theirs, where, it. Okay, so para 1, line 17, 18, 19, 23, 24. Find synonyms for the following in the last 3 paragraphs. Strict, unconditionally, conventions, renowned, flourish. Okay. So man කැමති ඕගොල්ලෝ reading passage එකට ගිහිල්ලා pause කර questions බලලා උත්තර ටික තනියම හොයන්න. Right? හෙමින් ඕගොල්ලෝ උත්තර ටික හෙව්වට පස්සේ I will put up the answers so that it is easy for you. ඕනේ නම් මෙතනින් වීඩියෝ එක pause කරලා උත්තර ටික හොයන්න. Right, so hopefully you have finished it by now. Let me put up the answers. So them refers to religious symbols. It's referred to ECJ. And theirs means the faith, others' faith. Where, that is Saudi Arabia. And it means the hijab. So find synonyms. Strict is rigid. Unconditionally, categorically. Conventions, mores. Renowned, prominent. Flourish, thrive. Right, so here we are. I have put down the answers. ඒ ටික ඇති කියලා මම හිතනවා ඔයගොල්ලෝ ගාවත්, right? So if you can't find it, please go back and refer, right? So the next question, let's have a look at it. Question number 3. Find evidence in the text for the following. Okay. Quanta Ahmad feels perplexed by the idea that the wailing is respectable. Then Terum tika, you have perplexed, you have wailing is covering, respectable, you should know by now what is respect. Okay. So I want you to go through this on your own. Again, if you can't understand the words, you can have a look at the meaning from the dictionary, right? Goda vela තේරෙන්නේ නැත්නම් ඒක බල බල ඉන්න එපා ඩික්ෂනරි එක අරගෙන තේරුම් බලලා ක්වෙස්චන් එක ආන්සර් කරන්න. right? මම කියලා දෙනවට වඩා හැම වචනයක්ම දැන් වෙනකොට again I want to stress on it how important it is for you to be an independent learner. Right? Devotees must see it as a benefit if companies limit the use of religious symbols. The hatred of women led Islamists to impine the veiling as a practice. The despotic Islam had a hidden agenda regarding women. Due to past mistakes, Europeans now realize that some democratic policies have had a reverse effect. Right? So please find evidence, text එක බලලයි, write down the answers. Right, so if you have finished by now, let me put down the answers for you. Right, so the first one, Quanta Ahmad feels perplexed about the idea that the wailing is respectable. So he would say, that's why I'm baffled by the notion that all good Muslim women should cover their hair or face. Second one, devotees must see it as a benefit if companies limit the use of religious symbols, giving an employer the right to restrict the use of headscarves So you could put scarves or you could put headscarves like HEADSCARVES. Either one is fine, right? Headscarves in Britain or elsewhere is good for every believer. Third one. The hatred of women led Islamists to impinge the veil as a practice. They are derived not from the Quran or early Islamic tradition, but from a misogyny which claims a false basis in the divine. The despotic Islam had a hidden agenda regarding women. So you can say totalitarian Islamic that wanted not just to run the government but to police what women chose to wear. The last one. So, due to past mistakes, Europeans now realize that some democratic policies have had a reverse effect. So, that would be Europe is increasingly reaping the harvest of multicultural policies that have served to divide rather than unite. Okay, so here we are, we've answered the questions. ටිකක් අමාරු questions ටිකක් මොකද lesson topic එකම ටිකක් අමාරුයි සහ අලුත් vocabulary ගොඩක් ඕගොල්ලන්ට මේ lesson එකේ තිබ්බා which is good, right? So හදිස්සියේ මොන හරි ගැන ලියන්න කතා කරන්න හරි reading passage එකක් තිබුණොත් you know how to approach the question and you have some kind of knowledge, right? So with that, I think we have done quite a lot in this lesson, right? So we did short answered questions, matching questions, understanding meaning as to what these things refer to, multiple choice questions, okay? Again, short answered questions, vocabulary meaning questions, gap fill questions, matching questions, right? So with that, I think we have come to the end of this lesson, human rights.